I was curious about something. You have a project going. What's it called?
Which project?
Yeah, you got several going. The Last House in Flytown.
Okay, yes.
All right. So before we started taping, you and Darren were talking about an upcoming video about that, and I, of course, perked up because my father grew up in Flytown. He is first generation Italian.
Very nice.
And of course, I teased you at the time and said I want to be involved in that, so I hope that I am.
Actually, you said, "Why am I not involved in this?"
I did say that. So. What's that about? What's going on? Let's start with that. Be specific about that, and then tell me about what's going on in real estate for you and the Get Big Inc. team.
Yeah. So the Last House in Flytown is actually about the fact that we are marketing the Last House in Flytown. It literally is the last house.
So it was the last one built, or just
the last one? It exists.
And that exists.
That exists.
Okay.
Everything else has been commercialized, torn down. Hotels.
Yep.
You know. Entertainment venues, things like that.
Sure.
And this is the very last house. We got a hold of the family that owned the house before this family owned the house.
Yeah.
And now this family has owned the house for 50, 60 something years.
How old is this house? You have any clue?
No.
20s, 30s, who knows?
Yeah, I think even before that.
Okay.
Like this house is old.
Yeah.
Old.
Yeah.
And it sits right next to the highway, which the highway didn't used to always be there.
Of course not.
And so it's very interesting because inside this house, all of the original stuff is still in there.
I love it.
Like you still have the hats from back in those days, toys from back in those days. I mean, it's a collector's dream. There have been people who've walked through the house, on showings and things that have asked if they could come back and buy some of the items that are in the house. Yeah. And of course, that's a resounding no.
How in the world did you get on to the last house? How did Vic Phillips with the Get Big Inc. team find himself discovering the last house in Flytown, and then you're able to purchase it and make that happen?
Because nobody's a stranger.
Right.
Because I literally talk to every single person in the world. And a guy walked into my office. We opened up an office. I like to be in areas, my offices are in areas where there's a lot of gentrification going on.
Yep.
And with gentrification, you have a lot of, people don't realize it. They just look at the negative aspect of gentrification, but there's typically a lot of energy. It wakes the neighborhood up.
Let's talk about that for a second. Don't forget where you were. But you and I both know that communities go through growth, stabilization, decline, and revitalization.
Correct.
So it's that last one that we're kind of talking about a little bit, right?
The revitalization.
So that it's been called gentrification of late, but it's growth, stabilization, decline, and revitalization. And that happens for a lot of different reasons. So anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry I interrupted.
Well, because you interrupted.
Yeah, you forget where you were.
Well, I don't forget where I am, but there's two sides to that coin. There's two sides to that story.
That's where you were.
And I'm not really sure how deep we want to get into that. But there is there's a different aspect. A lot of the people, just quickly, a lot of people feel like gentrification is negative because a lot of the things that they've asked for so many years, like improvements of sewers, electric, all that kind of stuff.
Basic services.
Basic services are never provided until the quote-unquote revitalization or gentrification happens.
Yes.
And then everything all of a sudden becomes brand new, but it becomes brand new as they're being pushed out.
Sure.
So I won't go too deep into that, but...
Well, I just think it's cool that you're doing that, so I don't mean to cut you off. But I think it's cool that you're doing it. I'd love to be involved, and Flytown was something my father talked about all the time growing up. So that's a cool thing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. But that's why we open our offices in gentrification areas, because it creates energy and people start to move. And when those people start to move and I start to talk to those people, I say, hey, what is it? Tell me a little bit more about this area. Why are you so connected to this area? What makes this area so special?
Yeah.
And that's where you get involved in these kind of projects.
So blow that up a little bit for us and for those that are watching this video. How does that equate to what you decide? How many years ago did you start in real estate? 15?
Yeah, I started all the way back in 2009.
Okay, so let's just take 2009. So what brought you to the concept? You've got, it's Get Big Inc., but you have a particular thing that you say to people when they ask you, what do I do in real estate? And what do you do?
I make people rich.
You make people rich.
That's really what I do.
how did you, let's blow this up and tell everybody, just tell me about a day in the life of Vic Phillips.
Now or then?
You can shorten it to how you got to a day in the life of Vic Phillips now, briefly.
Okay.
Why investing? Why flipping, which is not a bad word? Why do people buy and hold? Where did you come up with your philosophy for being of service to people in real estate?
Well, back in 2009, I was dead broke, single dad, 2 kids on welfare.
Yeah.
And I got a tax return that was pretty decent because, when you don't make a whole lot of money, you get a lot of money back from the government.
Your refund was a good one.
Was a good one.
Yep.
And instead of buying the furniture and TVs and all that kind of stuff, I decided to invest in real estate because I felt like that's a way that I could get a return. Plus, that's when the market crashed in real estate, so things became affordable.
So you were licensed or unlicensed?
Unlicensed.
Unlicensed.
I was unlicensed. I was just flailing in the wind.
Yeah, just trying to get involved.
Right, just trying to get involved.
Go ahead.
Bought my first house for $4,750.
Yeah.
It was a duplex that was burnt down on the side of it because somebody had a kitchen fire.
Yeah.
And it had a bunch of the orange stickers, which means that it's got code violations.
It's got problems.
And so no investors or anybody wanted to touch it because they don't want the city over their shoulder with code violations.
Yeah.
So I figured if I go in here and I just lift the code violations, then it's going to be worth something to somebody at that point in time. So I took my little $8,500. I bought the house for $4,750. I used the other $3,000 to clean the house out and get it all boarded up. Went down to the city, got the code violations knocked off of that, and sold it and made a $5,000 profit.
So you took that formula. So when did you decide to get your license? You said, okay, I did this unlicensed. Why a real estate license?
I got my license because I didn't like other people being in control of the deals that I had access to.
Okay.
And so I decided, I was in the car business at that time and I was just still doing real estate a little bit on the side. And I decided that I wanted to do this full time because I wanted to be in control of my own destiny. I had made a decent amount of money in the car business. It allowed me to then transfer over to the real estate business. Yep. And I wanted to be in control of my own deals and control of what I had access to.
That makes sense. So what's interesting to me is, now, if you now fast forward to today, you've said, I wanted to do this for myself and my family. I wanted to have more control over the business of what you then identified as real estate. Still call it the same thing today. What brought you to wanting to be of assistance to a broader and broader group of people? Because right now you run a team of how many?
I believe there's 10 of us.
Okay, so you run a team of 10 folks, and you have family and friends and clients. The team are family, friends, and clients. So everybody that you touch in real estate is somebody that you want to be of assistance to. What brought you to that? Because
I realized my first year in real estate, because it was all about me in the very beginning.
Well, yeah, you got to survive.
Right, yeah. But my first year in real estate, I realized that people were not really willing to show people the way. And I felt like people need to know the way. Like, why? There's enough out there for everybody. Why should I be the only one eating? Why should you be the only one eating? Everybody needs to eat. Everybody needs to survive. Everybody wants to have a vacation.
Yes.
So why not show them those things?
So the original love it or list it guy is Vic Phillips. I don't know, I'm thinking back 2009. I'm sure those shows existed, all the ones that we hear about.
What was Flip This House back in those days?
Reality TV, which is extremely unreal.
Unreal.
So you lived the real life of somebody who just started in the real estate.
Correct. Who hit every roadblock, who stumbled over every boulder there was out there, who did it all wrong until he figured out how to do it all right.
Stumbled forward.
Exactly.
So you got your real estate license in 2010?
I got my real estate license in 2016.
16. Okay, so for quite a while you were out just doing it on your own.
Hustling, yeah.
Is that when you were trying to determine if you wanted to make a permanent transition from the car business to real estate? Is that why that period of time was that period of time? Because I understand, and we've talked a lot personally, you were a very successful car guy. Yeah. Very successful. Knew a lot of people. Did very well in that business. Hard to let that go?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it was hard to let it go because I made so much money.
Yeah.
People don't realize how much you make in that business.
Sure.
But if you're good at it, you make a good amount of money. And everybody thought I was crazy when I left.
When you left.
Yeah. But I had a bigger I felt like there was something bigger out there for me.
Sure.
And so that's and you want to know something interesting?
What's that?
Back when I was doing it all on my own before I had my real estate license,
Yeah.
Mark Hutchinson was my real estate agent.
Was he really?
He was.
Mark Hutchison, just for those of you watching this video, Mark Hutchison and I lead a team of about 40 people with Red One Realty. And very quickly when he joined AMP, it's the agent mentorship program. Well, I shouldn't say very quickly. You get older and you try to grow in wisdom. I recognized the tremendous value he brought to the team.
Right.
And he wanted to do things and be involved. Mark had retired from the state of Ohio, was used to managing and leading and kind of keeping organized big groups of people. And he and I would talk every week, and we started doing videos and posting them on our YouTube channels. And he and I would talk, and he'd make suggestions. Now, remember, he was used to working with the state, where you make a suggestion that you think is good with the state. It's going to take, no offense to governments, it's going to take 3 or 4 or 5 months or a year to implement that.
Absolutely.
So he'd make a suggestion to me, I'd say, that's a good idea. I'd shoot out an email, and that would be implemented right now.
Yeah.
And he appreciated that. So we eventually came together, and now he helps me run that. Mark is a very, very good agent, and the reason he's a good agent is because of what you and I have talked about previously. All Mark wants to do is be of assistance to people.
Right.
And take that idea, and as people who market real estate services, we want to be of assistance to everybody.
Right.
Mark, you, me, others, we know dozens and dozens of agents who get into real estate first and foremostly, probably not a word, want to be of assistance. Yes, there's money to be made, but we have, it's just built in us to be really interested in houses, interested in how they come together. You and I love to talk about how things are constructed. You walked in here about an hour ago and looked around and said, I like this.
It's
right?
beautiful.
Because it is beautiful. And so we have that passion for just homes.
Yeah.
On AMP, we talk about anything home.
Right.
Mark is the kind of guy that you can call him, and I think this about people on your team, I think this about people on the AMP team. You can call these guys who are licensed real estate agents in the state of Ohio and ask them any question about your home, and they will have an answer. If they don't know it, they'll go get it quickly. I don't care if it's, I need an electrician, a plumber, a landscaper, a roofer. Hey, can you help me get my property taxes revised? There's a method that the auditor allows you to go through to do that. I got this statement in the mail, or this thing from my bank, or this thing from my insurance company, or this thing from this company that wants to provide me with a copy of my deed. We get all these phone calls. We're of assistance in people in a much broader way than just the transaction. As a matter of fact, when you and I introduce ourselves to people, you said it earlier, if somebody asks me what I do in real estate, I say I market real estate services, because that's the truth.
Yep.
I am a real estate agent, but that's not my answer. I am a realtor with the National Association of Realtors, but that's not my answer, and it's not yours either. What's your answer? When people ask you what you do, again, one more time.
I make people rich.
I make people rich. It happens to be in real estate. So at any rate, the theme is, the reason why Mark Hutchison popped up is he just wants to be of assistance.
Yeah.
He does so many things in his neighborhood, in his community, for businesses that are surrounding him, to interact with them. He does videos for a local mechanic.
Yeah.
He just works really, really hard to be of assistance to people. All those roads lead to, hopefully, a transaction someday, but our business is about being of assistance.
Right.
Really.
But what about you? I'm not a person that will typically, sit down and every time somebody gives me a phone call, I make sure I make time for that person. But when we first met, I knew that you were somebody that I wanted to know, somebody that I wanted to sit down with, somebody that I wanted to kind of mesh our brains together and figure out what we can make happen. What brought you here? How did you get here? Because you have way more experience and knowledge in real estate than I do.
I don't know about that. I'll keep this short. I've been in real estate since 1992. I started out, That's compared to some of the other license numbers I see, because all of our license numbers are based upon the year. Well, now they are based upon the year we got into real estate.
Yeah.
So you can always tell how long somebody's been in real estate by their license number. At any rate, I started with a local home builder, Dominion Homes.
Okay.
It's now known as Pulte. And I remember, I'll just tell a quick story, how you and I came to simply want to be of assistance to people is the same and yet different. In my case, you know home builders, they have models, and they have salespeople sitting in them. Well, I was, excuse me, I was at my first sales meeting with Dominion Homes. I was in a room with people who were very successful. You and I both know that salespeople are very highly paid in our country and around the world. So these were very successful people that I looked up to. This was not a world that I was used to, right? Sitting around a big conference table waiting for your manager to come in and you're having a sales meeting. And there were 7 or 8 or 9 of us at the time. And I remember just sitting there keeping my mouth shut because I was the new guy and I didn't have anything to say. And one of the things that came up before our manager came in, his name was Rick Beekler. He's the one that hired me. There's another story about that, about how he hired me. But before he came in, what I started to hear around the room, just different conversations taking place, was back then, and just like today, people come into the model and they want assistance, right? And that assistance could be, I'd like to buy a house in this community. But that assistance could be, how many home sites do you have here? Do you have home sites other places? Where'd you get the furniture? What's this paint color, right? You and I both do that. We come into a room and just kind of start looking at stuff.
Yeah.
And the complaint I was hearing, no offense to any of these people, I know many of them to this day, was folks would come in and have a question unrelated to buying a house. And so as a true, pure salesperson, you don't want to deal with that. Right? You just want to deal with somebody who wants to buy something. Sit down, press hard, there's 5 copies, let's move on. Well, it struck me that I did not want to be that. I wanted to be successful, but I wanted to help everybody who came in.
Oh.
So I left.
So that's how you came up with the Anything Home.
That is how I came up with Anything Home.
Got you. Because it truly is Anything Home.
It is Anything Home. I remember Dominion Homes at one point using a tagline similar to that, and I'm proud of that. At any rate, I went down to our decorating studio, got a big book, asked them to put all the stuff in it that was in the model I was going to be in. It was called Darby Glen. It was in Hilliard, obviously still there. So I got that book. I got everybody's lots from every community we were in, put those in a book. And I don't know that was something that I invented. It probably wasn't. The book for what was in my model might have been. Doesn't matter. I wanted to be of assistance to folks.
Right.
And if it wasn't about buying a house right then and there, that's okay. Now, I admit when they came in, I would sit down with them and say, I know you're probably here to talk about buying a house, but what's going on? And we'd talk about family and pets and what's going on in your world and where do you work. So that's how I got started in '92, and then I left Dominion Homes in 2002.
Okay.
And I was on my way to sign up at Hondros College to take my classes and get certified and licensed. And I called a buddy of mine who I had gotten started in real estate. He was in marketing at the time, and said, "Hey, I'm going to get my real estate license, and I have a problem." First of all, he was shocked I left Dominion Homes. I was there for 10 years, and I don't think anybody thought I'd leave.
Yeah, because you're probably successful.
I was successful there. Yep, I was successful in sales. I was not a successful manager.
I got you.
And there's a difference between managing and leading.
We've had that conversation.
So anyway, at any rate, I'm talking to Scott, is his name, Scott Buckheimer, and I said, I got a problem. He said, what's the problem? I said, well, I want to start a real estate brokerage. I want to affect people's lives, like you mentioned earlier.
Absolutely.
But my problem is I don't have a college education, so I don't have a certificate. And I've got everything else, transactions, all that stuff. He said, no problem. So this is one of those moments in life, right, that you talked about when you kind of, it hit you that you need to make that transition from cars to real estate. He said, well, Mark, it's weird that you called because I started my brokerage classes 2 Thursdays ago.
Wow.
So it's cool. And then I've been in real estate ever since. And so for the last 20 years, I've been practicing real estate, marketing real estate services, and being of assistance to family, friends, and clients. And now I have a team at Red One. So
absolutely,
it's been a bunch of fun. It's been an interesting road.
Yeah.
The reason why I started AMP is the same reason why I think you started Get Big Inc. We don't want the agents that come into this to experience the hardships that we did starting the business. So you've put together a formula. I've put together a formula. Those formulas are different, but they mesh. And it's just to help small business owners who have a vision and a dream achieve what it is they want for themselves and their family.
Absolutely.
I mean, everybody has family, faith, social life, and work. If you have faith, family, it's faith in yourself. Family, faith, social life, and work. So we try to help people integrate all those things into a small business called real estate.